Hey guys and gals, this is Josh here from Atlantic British and Clearview, USA. Today we're going to be installing a set of our next generation towing mirrors onto this Chevy Colorado, and let's get started. Alright guys, and the mirrors that we're going to be installing today are the next generation from Clearview. These mirrors are great because they actually sit a little bit closer to the truck than the original style, and they're actually a slight bit smaller, which actually carries a nicer profile on the truck itself. The set we're installing today is actually going into a truck that has heated mirrors, so this actually has the extra wiring for the heated mirrors in it, as long as the power mirror function. They do come with two plugs for two different styles of wiring harnesses in the doors. You'll actually only probably use one of these plugs, and the other one will just get tucked away. It's basically just an extra. Okay guys, first let's discuss the tools that we're going to be using on this installation. Right off the bat here we have the Auto Body Now fastener and molding remover set. Basically these are the pry tools that you're going to be using to get the plastic door panels off of the truck. They're actually really nice because they won't mar up the finish on the paint around the door panel. We do have these available on both of our websites, clearviewmirrorsusa.com, also on roverparts.com. Next up are just a few tools of my own that we brought in to do this. Flashlight, just so you can see in the little nooks and crannies if you happen to be in a dark area. You're going to use either a pick or a small flathead screwdriver to pry off some of the smaller little pieces. You're going to need a 10mm socket and ratchet. A pair of needle nose pliers is not necessary, but it definitely helps out. And then you're going to need a 7mm nut driver in any way, shape, or form just to get the actual door panel unbolted. And then it's always handy to have a little magnet to retrieve those lost screws. Alright guys, there's plenty of videos on the internet right now to how to take these door panels off, but what we're going to do is just give you a quick overview of how to do it, and that way it's a lot easier for you and one-stop shopping here. Basically there's a bolt underneath here, a little 7mm bolt. Also there's two underneath this handle, and then two more underneath the very bottom of the door. It's just a little cover you have to pop off. Here you pop off this aluminum trim panel, and then on the bottom the two are actually exposed. Once you have those off, it's as easy as popping all the pins around the outside of the door panel, and then this door panel comes off. There are three bolts that hold the mirror on, and they're behind this trim panel in the corner here. So what you're going to have to do after you get the door panel off is actually take off a pop pin at each end of this trim piece, and then the trim piece will actually work its way out and around. So what we're going to do is start getting this door panel off here. First thing you're going to do is grab either a pick or a small flathead screwdriver to pop this little interior panel off underneath the door handle. There's a little tab at the back. Just insert, pull it out, and it should be free to go. There she is. And that exposes your first bolt. Alright. Then what we're going to do is grab some of our trim panel removers, and you're just going to want to slowly work underneath the seam and pop away this trim panel. And we've got it. Alright, and that'll actually expose right there. There's two more spots where you'll find two more 7mm nuts. Then you're going to grab your 7mm nut driver and basically just take out all the bolts we just discussed. They're all the same size, so there's no reason to worry about separating which one goes where. As you can see, these are actually in there a little bit deep. If they don't come right out with the nut driver, I'll grab my magnet and we'll pull them out. Alright, there's actually two more right on the very bottom. They're both exposed. You just kind of have to feel around and look around underneath there. Alright, now we're just going to grab our magnet real quick and pull out the two that were in the door handle. And there they are. Once you have all 5 of those bolts out, what you're going to do is just work your way around the bottom of the door and start popping the pop pins. It's easiest on the bottom because there's actually a small gap to start with. And then just get the tool in there and work it out. Alright, once you have all the pop pins removed, it's basically an upwards motion to get the trim strip up and out of the door. And it is going to sound a little extra. And there you go. You are up and out. Then it's as simple as just pinching, pulling out the door handle, and then taking the time to unplug all the extra wires. The next thing what we're going to want to do is actually take off the little wire connectors that are holding this on. That way we're not hanging the door panel by the wires. They're actually safety releases. So there's a little red tab. You have to get in with a screwdriver, pull that down, and then you should be able to actually pinch and pull out. And it's the same for all three connectors. Okay, now that we have the door panel off, you'll actually see that there's the connector right there for the mirror itself. And it's another one of the same style of safety connectors where you pop out the little red tab and then pinch and pull out the connector. The 3 bolts for the mirror, as I said earlier, are actually underneath this cover piece. You can see one here, but there are 2 more. So we're going to have to pop these pop pins out of each end and pull this trim piece off. What we're going to use for that is actually another one of the trim removal tools. This one actually works great for getting underneath and give it a little pry, and it'll pop right out. And we'll go to the other side and do the same thing. A little pry. Once you have the pins out, it's actually as easy as just kind of prying away this trim piece. And there's one more clip back here. A little bit of a tug, and it's off. Now that we've got that trim piece off, as you can see, the 3 bolts for the mirror are exposed. What you're going to want to do is actually start by taking off the 2 lowest bolts first. They should come out pretty easily. And then when you go to do the 3rd bolt, you're going to want to make sure you have a hand underneath the mirror, because that's all that's going to be holding it on. At this point, the mirror should be free. You're just going to want to pop the grommet through, give the mirror a little wiggle, and the old mirror was off. Once you have the original mirror off, what you're going to want to do is actually just kind of check out. You can see a little bit of debris builds up here. Just take a rag to kind of get that cleaned up. I always prefer to do that just to kind of keep a cleaner installation. One little tech tip before you go to put the mirror in, you're going to want to make sure the gasket is in the correct location. If you can see that, it actually comes just a little over the edge right there. It's got a lip on it, and it should go around. If you don't have this seated correctly, you may get some whistling on the highway. So if you install the mirror and the mirror sound a little loud to you, that's probably what the problem is. So now we're going to install the actual new mirror. We're going to go right from the front here. You're going to put your connectors through the hole where the original connectors came through. Just feed that through nicely. And then you're going to slowly line up the mirror into the studs. There we go. And then take your 3 nuts and just hand tighten them onto the studs. Once you have the studs hand tightened on, you're just going to grab your ratchet and slowly tighten all the nuts. And just do it in an equal pattern. A few turns on each one just to draw it in. The new gasket, because it's not formed to the car yet, will have a little play in it. At this point, what you're going to want to do is just plug in your new mirror. As I said originally, there are 2 different plugs. They're for 2 different models with different options. In this case, we're actually going to use the smaller of the 2 plugs, since this one is the heated and power. And it clips right in, just like the original plug did. All right. Now we're going to start on the reinstallation of all the parts that we took apart just to get the new mirror in here. This door panel top piece here is actually one of the more difficult ones to put in, just because there's a little ridge on the bottom here which has to go up underneath the metal ridge of the door itself. It will go in, it just sometimes takes a little finessing. Alright guys, now that we have this trim piece basically set up where it needs to be, just make sure that your weather stripping is out of the grooves that this comes in. And then you're just going to very lightly push in the push pins on either end. Guys, now that we have that trim piece all on, what we're going to need to do is actually disassemble the top portion of this door panel to actually get it back on. This isn't common in a lot of vehicles, but in this one it actually makes it a lot easier. First, you're going to want to work this weather strip out of the clips by kind of pushing it down and then sliding it out, and it should slide right out of all the clips. Once you do that, you're just going to want to take your needle nose pliers and pinch these clips and pull them out. Okay, once you have the clips out, what you're going to want to do is just set them into the 5 slots at the top of the door. And those clips are what are going to hold the weather stripping back in. Once you have the 5 clips in there, you're just going to want to put the weather stripping back on. Make sure the fuzzy part actually goes towards the window. And you're going to want to start at the back end and kind of slide it under just slightly, and then it just fits right into that groove there. Once you have the weather stripping on, it's all about putting the door panel back on. Don't forget you had 3 plugs and the cable for the door handle. And last but not least, you're going to want to put your door cable back in. Put the ball in there, twist it sideways, pull this back, and once you go forward, it should slide right into its home. Perfect. Once you do that, you're just going to want to make sure your new wiring harness is down, just pushed in tight. You can actually tuck this one underneath here just to get it out of the way. Once all your wires and your cables are attached, you're just going to want to start at the top. Sometimes it's easier to pull out the door lock pin and then work your way in to the groove. Then you're just going to want to work your way around and pop in all the pop pins that you took out to get the door panel off. Once you've done that, reinsert your 5 screws, put your trim panels back on, and you're good to go. Now that you have your door panel back on and everything's back together, what you're going to want to do is make sure everything works before you take it out on the road. Look at that. Left, right, down and up. So once you know everything works, you'll notice that the top one is the power mirror, which works with your factory power option. The bottom one is actually a manually adjustable convex mirror. It's actually great for looking at your blind spots and for extended trailers. You can see it's actually movable by hand. It goes in all directions, and you can set it how you need it. All right, now that you've got the mirror installed, we'll show you how the slide out feature works. It's actually quite easy. Have your door closed, you're going to need the leverage. Just grab a hold of the mirror, pull it out. As you can see, it actually has a 3-position telescoping base on it. These actually extend out just as far as the original mirrors that Clearview has, except obviously in the more compact size. And once you fold them back in, they sit a lot closer to the truck. Guys, thank you so much for checking out our video today. Make sure you like and subscribe. Check them out on our website, clearviewmirrorsusa.com, or feel free to call any of our sales representatives if you have any questions or would like to place an order at 1-800-533-2210. Thanks and have a great day.